like I said, I was working like 2016, and then there's been a little bit of activity. I think I checked it recently. The last commit was like a year ago or something. So I don't even know if it works anymore.
Okay, it must not be new.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably something else out there. All right, so everything is going great. I'm like level 30 on Pokemon Go. I never even left my couch. Maybe my fingers are tired, but that's it. I've got like 3 Dragonites, if anyone cares what a Dragonite is, and you know, I'm like, this is great. I don't have to do anything, and suddenly everything stops. Like, what's going on? Why are our bots no longer working? And Niantic, this is like the beginning of like the rat race, right? Niantic's like, oh no, we have all these bots. What are we gonna do? So they introduced something called certificate pinning. What certificate pinning is certificate pinning. When we do that man-in-the-middle attack, there's this little bit of encryption goes on whenever you talk to a server, which is called SSL. And when you do that man-in-the-middle attack, you own one of the computers. So you get to be like, okay, we're going to use a crappy encryption scheme so I can decrypt myself, right? Certificate pinning says, oh, there's just the OWASP slide. Certificate pinning is basically saying, no, you have to use our specific certificate. You have to use our particular encryption key. Otherwise, you know, the app's just not going to work. So, you know, there goes our hopes and dreams. We can't necessarily go in the middle anymore because there's a particular certificate. So we can try and extract that certificate, we can try to do other things, but it seriously impedes everything. All right, and then there's this thing called Exposed, which is really cool. Exposed, for Android at least, anytime an activity spawns on Android, I don't know if this is like too low level or whatever, but basically Exposed lets you inject your own code, right? So what we did here is that this, you can't see it, but that little bit of blue is an encryption key. And what this code would normally do is say, if encryption key matches this encryption key, return true. And then this little bit exposed code says, always return true. So that way we got around certificate pinning. Cool. All right, so your turn, Niantic, right? Like, bet, game on. You tried one thing, we got around it. And then we're feeling pretty good because this works. And then, you can't see this, but they started putting out more things, right? Of course, we're in the bottom line by cheating at this game. So this is like saying, hey, we're rolling out to Brazil, so we turned on more anti-cheating flags. And what they did here is that suddenly, when we're reversing these protocols, we noticed that there are some fields we just can't guess, right? Like maybe the accelerometer stuff we can guess pretty easily. Catching a new Pokemon we can guess, but then there's some that just look like junk to us. We still can't figure out what they are. And it turns out that those are particular keys that validate like the sanity of that validate that the message in the app, I think is the best way to say it. So it's kind of like, oh man, how do we fake that, right? We can't do that just watching wire. We actually have to go into the code. So, yeah, the great mystery of unknown 6. Unknown 6 is, you know, one of these fields that we're just like, we have no idea what this is. Yeah, it could be user sensor data. It could be like some form of like encryption. We had no idea what was going on, but someone took it down and painstakingly went through the code and saw that there was a C library that the app was calling to that was doing these encryption of the protobuf, setting the field and then setting it off. So once again, I was waiting on my couch, you know, just waiting. Let the people do the hard stuff and just put it up. So someone cracked open IDA, figured that out, told us all, and we're like, okay, awesome. So we did that. All right, it works in the clear. Right, those additional sensor fields, you can't see this again, but those additional sensor fields are pretty valid because if, like, for instance, when I wrote my bot, I did bother putting in accelerometer data, right? Like, why would I bother coding something off like that, right? I didn't bother putting in, like, any of the other data because it didn't really make sense. And in fact, like, this is an example of where my bot would go. And you can see that my bot literally, like, walks right across water in Jesus mode. So anyone looking at these data points, I imagine it'd be pretty easy to be like, okay, this is fake. You're not on top of the building, right? You're not Spider-Man. I don't think so. So Niantic sent me an email and said, stop. Actually, it doesn't matter. Your account is banned, but stop still. And I was like, oh, bye, Jordan Knights.
I thought you was connected to the network. How do they know that you're doing all that?
Yeah. So once again, it's just like, there are probably different ways they can do it. I think a pretty easy way of doing it is looking at the GPS movements, right? This is not how a person moves, right? Another way would be that, remember I said I wasn't filling in all that sensor information? You could potentially do a scan and see, okay, all network requests where the sensor information is not being filled in is probably a bot, right? Or you could join our Slack channel, right? Pretend, be like in the background as a Niantic dev, like, you know, troll us a little, figure out our trade secrets, and roll that into your own code. Yeah.
Is there a way to actually make it so that the bot actually follows the manual follows the doctors and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that people are actually doing that. So you can use the Google Maps. Google Maps has an API that will plot routes for you. So they would be like, okay, I want to get to this particular Pokemon. They would go call Google Maps, be like, okay, how do I get there? Google Maps would provide a reasonable looking like human path, right? And then the bot would painstakingly say, I'm walking over there, I promise, right? And provide accelerometer data that did stuff like it. Once again, it would probably look very different from real human data, but you know, it's a bit more believable, a bit more like difficult to wrap your mind around. All right, but that's exactly what this slide addresses. I don't know if you can necessarily read this, but the idea being that if you get smarter about the ways to fool Niantic, you're basically limiting yourself, right? Because if I can only walk as fast as a human and I have to take actual paths, then I'm making my bot progressively crappier to fool you, right? So at the end of the day, I can only be as good as a human. And why not? Yeah.
So what about multiple bots connected to multiple accounts that look like different people?
Yeah, that'd be great, especially if you're trying to sell them or something. So I guess that still works.
I haven't seen them.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. You can look into it. You can think way deeper into it. But personally, I just wanted my one account so I could stuff to my friends. But were you going to say something?
Go ahead.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. Where else was I? Last notes. Oh yeah, so the big idea is that you can also take the sensor data that humans actually do produce and then try and use some sort of predictive model to be like, this is how humans actually play. And then you would fool them that way. But you know, they throw in captures or something, it just gets a lot hairier. So at some point I just gave up. Yeah, overall, learned about protobuf, reverse engineering, exposed. I think those were kind of three pretty relatively cool things that I got away from this. And it was kind of cool to see a company aggressively putting out anti-bot procedures and then aggressively trying to fight them. And that was a little bit of fun. And it's how I imagine, you know, Skynet's probably going to happen, right? Someone just wants that Pokemon and we're gonna go. Okay, cool. So I ran through that really fast, but I think that's okay because I've done it. And this demo is not necessarily Pokemon Go. This demo is just like some crappy Android app I found. So let's go find out what this Android app is. It's my app. Yeah, if this is anyone's app, please let me know. I just called it crappy, right? Alphabet 2. The sequel. Yeah, so the code I initially wrote for this was Alphabet 1. I wrote this way back when, and then I was looking for it, and it's not anywhere. Like, Alphabet 1 no longer exists. So like, oh man. So I had to download Alphabet 2, change my code, and it worked when I left work, so we'll see. I just want to give you guys a feel for what's going on. It's cute bears, so you know that's a plus. Yeah. Awesome. So let's select some bears, guys. All right. All systems go. Cool. So this is just a random game. Any game. It can be anything that talks to a server. The main idea is that we're going to be looking at things over the wire, right? So this game in particular, I know talks to servers because like I've looked at it in detail, but other games might not, right? They could do everything on device. Anyone have a word? They. You knew about something better? Hat? Hat? No, they is 4 letters.
Hats with an S.
Okay, anyway, so you get words and other...
I played this game.
You played this game?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Like text quiz.
I've never played text quiz.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, that's the general idea of the game, is that you go, you find these letters, you keep putting things in, little bears get angry or excited depending on how you do, and it's awesome. Now, there's this nice little app for Android, sorry to iPhone users, I'm sure there's something similar. But there's a nice little app on Android called Packet Capture. And what Packet Capture does is it sets up that little proxy directly on your phone. And that's great because, it works. And this is where I would have everyone be like, I'm sure there's an Android equivalent, iPhone equivalent. Let's like play along, find your favorite app and go through, let's do it. But what is it? The Android SDK 26 update makes it such that this method does not work super well unless you root your phone. So I fought like with rooting my phone this morning. So kind of annoying. Yeah.
It doesn't work on Android 7.
So I think Android 7 is that cutoff. I think is when they changed over to SDK. It's either 24 or 26. So yeah, if you want to do this, you kind of have to root your phone or find other ways of doing it, which sucks. But if anyone wants to play around with it after, that's fine. All right, so packet capture. Packet capture, we get to specify a particular app we want to watch, and then it will take all traffic from that app and basically just record it. Right, so I'm actually running a proxy on this already, so I don't know if this will work. We can try. Okay, so let's see if this works. So if we go back to our little alpha bear thing, let's put in another word, shag. Great. 2. All right, I don't know. Anyone Scrabble masters here? And now we go back to our packet capture app. We see that we actually have packets. Yeah, so we can see what's happening and we can see what's going on. So we see that it's talking to a couple of AWS servers. It's talking to Facebook servers. It's clicking on the Facebook one. You can't really see this, but basically it's saying, this is your user ID and probably, stalking my every move. That's what Facebook does. Google also talks to one. Apparently their app is throwing errors. This is just like a log of that.
Is it your ad services possible?
It doesn't look like ad services. I think there is some ad service stuff on here as well, but not that in particular. I did do a packet earlier where I got a ton more stuff, so we can kind of go through it. I think one of the most interesting ones was this, right? So as you're trying to reverse these apps, I would say before you start going really deep, because you can actually decompile these apps and then open up, I might touch on that in the end, depending if we have time. You can actually decompile these apps and kind of step through and see what the code is doing and try and figure out what's going on. But I think the very easiest way to start this in the first place is just to see what's being sent over the wire. Just to see what your phone or computer or whatever is talking to the what it's saying to these servers and trying to figure that out. So this actually looks like a pretty good one. So part of it is just getting like an intuition for when you see something, what does it mean? And this looks like a base 64 block, right?
What would be the telltale between metadata and actually just a packet?
Yeah.
It's not.
No, I think part of it is just like scraping through a ton of data, reading through it, and then getting a general feel for it. So like I've already kind of figured out how to do this. And yeah, there's a bunch of metadata count. Just had to like parse through it before I actually figured it out. But you see things, you start to recognize patterns. So this is base 64. I think I have it open here.
So do you have like a basics for generator converter?
Yeah, so I thought I had a base 64 converter, but I do not. Yeah.
Is there a way to set up an automated filter for actually hiding or possibly removing the metadata so you can just see what you're looking for instead?
Yes. So if you use something like Charles or Wireshark, that is built in. So the next thing I was actually going to show is there is something called man-in-the-middle proxy, which is a Python package where you can write your own scripts, and it will do crazy magic for you. So let's go check it out. So funny story. I was playing with this script before it came, and I actually deleted it, but it's still running. So, oh, you can't see this at all, can you? All right.
It's good.
All right. Well, I can maybe like talk about it a little. Oh yeah, you can see a bit more. Okay. So what we have here is that we just have a general class, and then I run this with the man-in-the-middle. I run this with the man-in-the-middle command, and it will just do magic. So the general way it works, people who knew object-oriented programming, this is creating a class, and it's a class with the method request, right? So this is something you just have to read through their documentation. The initial code I had that was running this was like using 0.2 or something. They're now like 4, so my code did not work. I had to kind of mess around and parse through their documentation again. But once you set up this class, you then just say add-ons, and then when you run the man-in-the-middle command, what will happen is that it will actually it will run this function on every single package that comes through. So what I have here is that I found out that this is the AlphaBear domain name. I found that this is kind of the general API endpoint, and the other stuff is just, just so we can see what's going through the wire. So let's give this a spin. All right, this is where everything breaks. I don't know if oh yeah, I needed to show this slide. Cool. So the way you do this, like I said, I have my phone rooted, so this is a little easier for me. But the way you do this is that you go to your Wi-Fi. I'm on Hopkins network because it's easier for me. And what you do, go to advanced settings, and then from advanced settings, you can set up a proxy. So this proxy right here is my laptop. It's listening on port 8080. And that means that all traffic that my phone generates through this Wi-Fi, or tries to communicate through this Wi-Fi, is going to go through my computer before going out into the internet. So that means to do my man-in-the-middle attack. I already have this certificate on my phone that my computer recognizes. So that means that I can, undo the encryption and read what's actually going on. So let's see. Let's generate some traffic, I guess. What's everyone's favorite site? I should ask. I'll just do Reddit. All right. So there's Reddit. We just generated some traffic. We go back, and we can see that nothing's happening. So that means my thing is not working. But, oh wait, no, actually, something is working. Forgot about this. I forgot. I have the Q flag, which means quiet. Make sure. Yeah, I don't know what's up there. Let me check that my IP address is correct. 10.241.1.2. 10.241.2712. Cool. Let's 172. Let's go back to Reddit. Look at some memes. Anyone have a favorite subreddit?
Make sure to search by you.
Me.
Just Google memes.
The subreddit me.
There's
Oh, the
r/money as well.
r/money.
r/honey.
r/honey.
Funny.
Oh, funny. Okay. I was like, oh man.
He's like, oh.
Honey, huh? All right, r/funny. All right, cool. So we just did some network stuff. Your phone's always doing some crazy network stuff, so we should definitely see something. And we still don't see anything. So that's curious. Actually, sorry about that. Probably should have tried it on this network opposed to going home.
That's okay, so what's the expected action?
Yeah, so the expected action is that we just start seeing a bunch of junk, start being spit out here. So every single request is going through, and then the next step is actually filtering for the particular packets we want and the packets we care about, and then from that extracting the data we need, and then from that running like a little anagram program that automatically generates really long words, so we can cheat, right? So this is reassertion, 4 streams, and then I also have like a little score associated with each one to figure out how well we can do. Fade duration, so I don't know, it was working pretty well. Alphabet 1, you could actually play against people, and I was dominating, right? Oh, of course. So, yeah, makes me a little sad, guys. Yeah.
I remember
I'll
a
take
while
questions
back,
anytime.
it wasn't with packet tracer, but they did something like that with Facebook.
Sorry?
I remember something like that was being done with Facebook.
Something like that is being done on Facebook.
Yeah, where you go on the Facebook and you look at the and it shows all the people that look into your page.
Oh, I don't know, maybe. So this was just kind of, in terms of like reversing, just sniffing the network is like the very easiest thing you can do. Right. The next thing is you can actually take the APK, which is like the program for Android, and reverse it as well. So I actually did an example of that. I'm sorry I can't show you like how to cheat at Alphabet. I'll give you guys the code, and maybe you can figure out how to do it yourself, or maybe just become a Scrabble whiz you find.
Mm-hmm.
But sorry.
Whichever's fast.
Whatever's faster, yeah. So I was looking at other games to kind of mess around with, and one of them was word flip. I figured like words are pretty easy to come up with some sort of program to cheat at.
Words with friends.
Words with friends I was thinking of, but I also didn't want to choose a company that was too big in case it was too hard. So I was like, let me find a shitty app, but still fun. All right, so I don't know, Bubble.
Yeah.
That one. Anyway, sorry.
Well,
Bubble. Nice. We need to try Bubble again. Okay. So yeah, this is just like another game where you just have to come up with the various words. And I was going to try and reverse this, but it's built on top of Cordova, and Cordova will give you certificate pinning for free. So I wasn't able to do it super easily unless I wanted to spend like a bunch of time figuring out how to hold the APK off my phone, and I reversed it. And let's see if we can find this, folks. So there's a nice tool. You guys probably can't see this. Can you see this? Cool. There's a nice tool called APK tool, right? And then I just run, oh, you can't see that at all. I run APK tool on the program basically, and it will take the binary, which is what your phone or computer knows how to run, and turns it into something human readable. So I'm just gonna go to the output of that and word.out, and then I thought this would be cool. Yeah, here we go. So I noticed, like when I did this, there were a bunch of JSON files, and I'm like, what are all these JSON files? Right? And JSON, like I said, is a data format. So if we just crack open one of these JSON files, we're on level 2, right? I don't know. I'm probably not going to be able to find it. Let's do 2en. I don't know. Doesn't matter, because the big idea is that all the words are hard coded into this app. So if you wanted to cheat, there's a nice easy way. It's in the source code.
Already.
Yeah, cool. So I think that's pretty much all I got. If I can't get that demo to work, should have sacrificed another goat. So yeah, I'll take questions.
Yeah, so just from a general perspective, Pokemon Go was created just as a box in the beginning, or more like a game?
Yeah, so
Yes.
yeah, I guess I could have given a better explanation for that. So Pokemon Go itself is just a game, right? And I wanted to cheat at the game, so I wrote a bot for the game. And this is kind of an exploration of how you can write bots, and just more generally with the Android ecosystem, how you can go about writing your own bot. So what I tried to do is I tried to show the alphabet thing, where you can snip the wire, right? You listen to your own network, setting up from my phone to my computer to out versus phone to out, right? And that means I can run everything through, generate a bunch of words, and then cheat, which is always fun, right? And then the other way that I was trying to show is that you can actually get the program itself, and then you can change that program into something a bit more human readable, modify that, and then you can recompile, and then you have a modified binary, right? Modified program to however you want. Or sometimes, if that's a bit more complex, you can just kind of, stick your nose around, see what's in there. And like I showed with that word flip game, everything's already in there. Like all the solutions are in there. So.
What app did you use to make the data more readable?
To make the what?
To make the program more readable?
To make the program more readable?
Yes. The binary is more readable?
Oh, yeah. So are you talking about the protobuf stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, so for the protobuf stuff, the app I told you about, which was Packet Capture. Packet Capture has a way of formatting things. For protobuf itself, there is a program called ProTalk, which is a protobuf compiler, and that will recognize protobuf binaries and kind of put it out for you. But it doesn't tell you what the fields stand for. It'll just be like, there's a field here, and it's an integer. We don't know what it does, right? So that's where people who were trying to reverse Pokemon Go had to do those incremental changes, see what happens when you start a gym fight or whatever, and then record those changes, and then it's kind of like putting together a puzzle. So yeah, protobuf is cool. Google uses protobuf everywhere. So
Besides, this is a great discovery. I can't even wait to try it on the text because I love, to be able to see something like this in action.
Yeah.
So,
do you want to try and text Chris now, since we're here as well?
text, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Again?
Yeah, but continue in the meantime.
Yeah, so I guess my question really is for just everybody else to understand a little bit more. Besides reverse engineering an app just for the purpose of just for recreational purposes, what are kind of some of the real life instances where we really have to reverse an app to fix a bug? Because if a hacker can get in, this is not really good. So it looks like this was a presentation you gave for cybersecurity club.
Yeah.
So what are the most common use cases of actually reversing that?
Sure. So I think the biggest that's a great question. So what's the reason you should be able to do this aside from plot points with your words for friends, right? Or just messing around and changing games. And the big thing is exactly that. If you are a developer of some sort, if you write your own code, if you make your own Android device apps, I'm focusing on Android in particular, because the Android ecosystem is a lot more open than the iPhone one. But what you'll find is that apps that share either Android and iPhone probably rely on a shared code base using something like Cordova or Unity engine. So if you can hack the Android one, you're effectively figuring out how to replicate the iPhone one as well. So that's, if Android's easier, why not do that one? So why do you care about this? Because when you do build your own thing, you want to be able to see how people are going to be able to communicate with your servers, how they can pretend, how they can automate things. Like I didn't even bother doing this with like Facebook and Instagram, but the big idea is that they want to be vigilant about this because you can make mad money if you are able to automate 1,000 Instagram accounts, just from a simple program, right? And it's something you need to be conscious of. Like, what does actual user data look like versus bot behavior? And that's probably one of the reasons that Pokemon Go is collecting sensor data, right? It's not necessarily that they need sensor data, as much as that it's a good filter between a bot and a human. So being conscious of things like this yourself are pretty interesting. One of the big ideas was that perhaps Niantic, which is the creators of Pokemon Go, were trying to honeypot us, right? By that I mean that they were like, oh, okay, here's the honey, right? Here, you can hack our app, whatever, go ahead and make these bots. And by doing that, they generated a ton of what bot behavior looks like. And that way, you can then go in with like some sort of predictive model, being like, okay, we know this is bot behavior, and we know this is real person data. We can build like some sort of, it doesn't even have to be super sophisticated machine learning, just some sort of classifier that says, bot behavior looks like this, people data looks like this, and then you solve the problem. So, yeah.
So, what kind of, for anybody that's actually interested in something like this, what kind of skills do you think that they ought to have? I mean, most people probably know what a JSON file is, but if somebody just wanted to actually take a stab at it,
Yeah.
what are some of like the general skills?
So I would think that something like this is kind of fun. If you have a game you want to cheat at, go ahead and do it. Like all you're doing, like I said, legal disclaimer, don't do it, but whatever, right? Generally, all you're breaking is like terms of service, right? So whenever you click that little box that says, I agree not to hack you, right? You're breaking that. But generally, those things do not hold up in court. So as long as you are not actively harming their infrastructure, because if you're on their infrastructure, if you build something that like overloads their server with like data, or you cause their system to crash, then they probably have a good means for like suing you, right? Or if you actually compromise their system, then they probably can sue you. But if you're just cheating at a game or whatever, or automating something, then it has no real legal ground.
And it's also another good way to see how the specific work is made, right?
Yeah, it gives you a good idea for if you want to build your own app. Maybe I want to use Protobuf, right? Because I know that it will, put me one step ahead of my reversers. But,
Well, you pretty much answered. Go on.
okay, cool. Yeah. What else? Oh, yeah. So then on top of that, I would also say general cybersecurity resources. So there's a great site called Smack the Stash, which is like Smash the Stack, which is like a good way of teaching you about buffer overflows. And then there's another site called Hack This Site, which is for SQL injects. Like there's a list of all these cybersecurity resources that you can use. And then just having a general sense for cybersecurity can really tell you how to tackle this problem. So like, you see a string, it's a base 64 thing, so maybe you should reverse that. Oh, you see something that's a bunch of binary, well, maybe it could be protocol. And then you just generally start to develop a bit more sense of what could work. Capture the Flags are a bunch of like free competitions for cybersecurity that are a ton of fun. So generally the way that will work is that like the school like Cornell or MIT will put up something and be like, okay, we have all these vulnerable services, go hack them. And you get to figure out, okay, I know this service is vulnerable, how do I actually get it? And it's a lot of fun.
Piggybacking off that one question she asked, say for example, my nephew, he's 17 years old, he wants to get to cybersecurity. I told him the best way for him to get into it is have a good foundation of networking.
Yeah.
And once he has started foundation networking, then he could like join the forums and go for the security plus, and they'll give him a good solid base.
Yeah.
Is that a good path? I mean,
No,
is
I
that good
think
route?
that's a really good path. I think for something like cybersecurity, there are like, I don't want to say there are levels, but there are different paths within cybersecurity itself.
Yeah.
So there's blue team, there's red team, and then there's like being like a system admin whiz, being able to like configure all your systems and having them be secure. And then there's actually like writing programs to break shit, right? Yeah, pen testers.
Yeah.
And I think possibly the best way, so like I said, as part of a large community when I'm trying to reverse Pokemon Go, the way I did that is started contributing to open source projects. So I needed to know how to code a little
That's what I'm
already.
doing right now.
Sorry?
That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. So I mean that's the best way, because what you have is that people are working on a project together, and then you're on a Slack channel or whatever, you can like ping your buddy and be like, hey, I saw the pull request you did. Do you mind explaining to me, or like how can we make this better? And then you start to develop resources that might be like somewhat anonymous, because not everyone is forthcoming on the internet, but you learn a ton that way.
Mhm.
And I don't know if people have GitHubs, but GitHubs are like a great way of showcasing your own work and being like, hey, I spun. Here's the work I've done.
How many bug bounties are you on right now?
Oh, I don't mess with it.
For what?
So bug bounties are this idea that if you can have Google wants to know about it. So how do they incentivize you to tell them? Well, they'll give you $1 million, right? So that's the idea behind the bug bounty, is that if you can figure out a bug in one of these big programs, you get a reward for it.
Just to go back to your bug bounties, a lot of the clients that I work with, they use Burp Suite for that, and Kali Linux is also used for that as well.
Yeah. So Kali Linux is a Linux distribution with a ton of tools already like pre-configured. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Burp Suite is just one of those tools where you just click go and it will like try and hack this shit out of whatever site or project you're working on.
So Smack the Stash.
Smash the stack. There are a bunch of them. I can
Smash the stash.
One of them.
Smash the stash.
Smash the Stash.
Alright.
Smash the
Let's see.
smash.
Smash the stack.
Okay, Smash the Stash.
.org.
That's like the stash.
There you go. So yeah, I know we do
Like
project
Robert,
nights.
they smash the
So-
stash.
Right.
Potentially we could do a cybersecurity project night if there is more interest in it.
Yes.
Insecure.org.
Sorry?
Insecure.org.
Is it? Oh yeah, it's insecure. Yeah.
Basically, no, like.
Insecure.org
Basically like
also.
a repository of all these applications.
Oh, insecure.org.
Sound like a
That's
game.
another one. Or Vulnhub. Vulnhub is another one. So yeah, there's a lot of resources out there.
Is there like a forum or page that like talks about Google and stuff?
I don't know of a single comprehensive resource. Sorry.
I was gonna say also for companies in cybersecurity are also looking for like offensive security, so Capture the Flag was one. But a lot of local schools here use hackathons.
Yeah.
So getting into those hackathon groups, or they're usually in the computer science groups in college. We went to UBC, so there's a hackathon. I know University of Maryland College Park is a very big one. So getting into that, it's like a plus to have for a lot of cybersecurity companies.
Yeah, that's good. If you can take it out to conferences, like,
Huh?
but anyway, yeah, sorry.
I noticed you mentioned APIs, whatnot there.
Yeah.
So I mean, you do a whole bunch of developing also. You actually make applications about that too, right?
Could you repeat the question?
I noticed you mentioned APIs also.
Yeah.
When they are taking a course from doing all this stuff, they're not going to learn about APIs and about applications, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where would they get their hands at also? I mean, how
Yeah.
do they apply themselves with that?
So-
Like, for example, my nephew, there is, majority of the schools I looked up don't have any programs to complement that. The only thing I see is cybersecurity, not much web development or even software development type stuff.
So I think that's kind of interesting because I was initially CS in school, and then I don't really like it because I felt like my classes were kind of slow. So I'm mechanical engineering now, but I kept up with the CS stuff myself. So I think school is a great resource because you can find a ton of academic stuff. But generally, like I feel like a lot of academic CS is more almost math orientated and less even practical, right?
Yeah.
A lot of CS people will get out of school, go into a working job, and be like, wait, I don't have to do proofs. Like I don't understand my job fully, right? And I think there's sometimes a little bit of disconnect. I think schools are doing a better job of that. I couldn't say as to like what school or resource or whatever to do. What I would say is, try CS major for your nephew, but also like encourage him to just go out there and teach himself. Because the best programmers I know, like sure, maybe they did CS in school, but
the main
for the most part,
two things I've been doing so far is, because my background's in India, I mainly do IT, but the main thing I do with him is networking and JavaScript.
Yeah.
That's all I know. That's as far as I can go. After JavaScript and networking, him to help him,
Yeah. Sometimes like going deep in, having no idea what you're doing, just like wipe your computer and put like Arch Linux on it and like struggling can teach you a lot. I spent 15 minutes to get this predicted.
How old is your cousin?
17 years old.
You're 17?
Yeah.
Okay. I have some information to provide as far as where you can find some additional resources to learn. Hey, anyone else have any other questions? Do you know how to hack Pokemon Go now?
Nope.
Who actually got to play that game?
I do.
You did? Hey, oh,
You're so
wow.
young. How you not doing it?
Right, and some people like playing that thing is like a mad craze for it that time.
I played it for like a week and I gave up.
Yeah, wow. So if you actually knew about reverse
You only have
engineering, you would have been able to beat the game, right? Okay, great. Well, Dylan, thank you very much. Let's give him a hand, please. It takes a lot to sit down in front of a crowd and start to talk because you get nervous and get jittery. So thank you very much.
Thanks for
Can I have one last question? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No problem.
We
Is
can
that like a blog or will we contact you or get more information from you or something like that?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the Slack, so you can just hit me up there. And then if you need to email me,
I was getting to that. So
just hit me up on the Slack.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So Dylan is in our Slack. Like I said before, if you're not in our Slack yet, make sure that I get your email address so we'll get you added in today. And yes, if you guys really enjoy this and you actually want to learn a lot more, or you know somebody that would really find this very, very interesting, a lot of gamers out there, so you know somebody. And I think it's going to be an interesting activity. So if there's a lot of people that actually really, really want to learn, we can do this as a hands-on workshop on our project night. So our project nights are on second Thursdays of every month. So I know most of you guys are learning the cybersecurity field, but this was actually very eye-opening. Just thinking about reversing an app for a game, or thinking about it from a cybersecurity perspective. So thank you all for coming. Next week is October. Right? What is Halloween?
Last day of October.
October, okay. Well, we'll see if we'll do a Halloween party or something. But so next week is gonna be the first week in October. So it's study group night. So if you want to learn some hands-on programming, we have Doug, Alex, Aaron, and Kwame, who are our study group coordinators. They come and help teach. So if there's something specific that you want to learn, people are going to be here to help. And Dylan has also offered to be able to assist us. So hopefully we get to see you guys on Thursday of next week, a study group night, and it's hands-on programming. If you guys have any other questions, just feel free to ask me. But otherwise, this meeting is adjourned, and I hope you all have a wonderful night.
Right.
Sorry. Yeah, go for it. You want to start?
I'm gonna give my information. I'm excited. Can't wait. I was so tired. I was like, looked at me. He made eye contact. And it was just like, okay.
Yeah,